So I'm Kat Farrance, I'm founder of Movement for Modern Life, and hopefully you'll be joining us in a little moment and joining in our penultimate day of the home yoga retreat, which is, I'm so sad that it's nearly over, but today I'm so delighted to be joined by Jean Hall. Jean, I don't think you've ever done a live on the Movers group before, so I feel very, very happy that you're here. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel quite inexperienced, so I will be led by you.
That is a funny thing because Jean is possibly the most senior yoga teacher on the site and is like the teacher's teacher of many students. And how long is it you've been teaching yoga for now, Jean?
I've been teaching, well, I qualified in 95, so that's 25 years ago. But since then, I qualified initially as an Iyengar teacher, but since then I've kind of studied lots of different forms and different, body disciplines. So it's been a journey, not just of teaching, but really more I think more learning for me, and that keeps me really interested to keep progressing and continuing along this line of the yoga practice.
I think that's what is the thing that marks out the best teachers, isn't it? It's like seeing your practice as a student all your life. I think that's what makes an amazing teacher, is having the evolution, is doing that.
Yeah, and I think because particularly now there's so many, the field of body work really is opening up, and there's so much cross-pollination and support and nourishment that comes from, say yoga and working with Mimi, and the qigong and the somatic works and contact improvisation. So and I think we're all learning from each other and all taking the best bits, and that keeps it all really fresh and really evolving.
Nice.
It's just an ongoing adventure and exploration.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how that's the best way, isn't it? Now we've got a few people joining us, so thank you very much. I'm going to be looking at the corners now. Volume for Jean is low. Can we turn you up in any way, or put you closer?
Is that better?
So
I've turned the volume up to the max, so I hope that will have made a difference.
Let's see if that makes a difference. Let us hope. And you have got a lot of love for your awakening class that was this morning. It's a great one. It's that sort of somatic, spinal, just feel your body stretch. And that's kind of what I love about and it works very well with your online practices, I think, because it's something that you can really get into. Oh, Emma says no, sounds a little bit muted. Oh dear.
Well, I have my voice. Maybe I just keep this a little bit closer to my mouth.
Or is the volume actually working from the mic? Maybe if you unplug the mic altogether, it might be muting.
I can't unplug the mic. This is just in my ears.
Is it a Wi-Fi one?
Yeah. Let me turn the volume up, and hopefully that might make a bit of difference if I turn it up on here.
Let's get some tech support on this.
Okay. Is that better?
Is that better? Let's see. Keep talking, Jean.
Okay. So the whole body awakening class, I became particularly interested in working very segmentally through the body, having last year looked at a lot of the functional range conditioning body of work, and how that works primarily with isolating each part or each joint of the body, and you isolate it, and then you create articulation in that particular joint, and you go through the whole body working joint by joint, isolating, articulating, and then eventually we bring it into a whole integrated flow. So that's really the thinking behind that whole body awakening class.
And that's why it works. Now the sound is not working here, Jean. So what I think we'll need to do is.
So what I might do, I might just come out of these and just go on my normal mic. Okay.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Don't hear a thing. You will need to change your sound source. I think on the top right of your computer, you might be able to search for where your sounds are coming from, or just having a look at the preferences. Let's see if I can be some kind of tech support. I think there's probably a settings thing somewhere that is going to change Jean's sound. Sorry about this, folks. We will get the sound sounding good in a moment. Let's see. Sounds. Okay, Jean, can you hear me? If you can, Jean, can you hear me? Not at all. Okay, so Jean needs to go to her system preferences and find the sounds. Very cool. Okay, hopefully we're going to be joined by Jean in a second. Okay, is that working? Sorry, folks, this is just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes when we do lives. And this is what makes things live, I suppose. So we will all just think of our present moment, practice, and how are you all doing anyway? While Jean is sorting out all of the sound issues, I'd love to hear how you're getting on with second last day now of the retreat. For me, there's been quite a lot of shifts, and this going into the present has actually been stronger than I would have thought, because it really has led to some shifts. Now, Jean, let's see if we can get, might help if she signs back out and in. I agree, but Jean appears to have lost radio contact with me. Let's see if I can work it out. So hopefully, Jean, can you hear me? No. Can you sign out and sign back in? Oh, bless you. Thank you all for being so patient, saying it's worth the wait. Jean is worth the wait. I really, really do assure you. She's an amazing teacher. I felt actually so humbled and chuffed when Jean first said that she would do filming on Movement for Modern Life, because, like I say, she's one of the most senior teachers in London for sure, and her wisdom, because I suppose Jean is somebody who's always growing with the practice, is really quite extraordinary. Okay, I'm going to see if I can message. Can you hear me? I can't hear you at all. Okay, so hopefully she's going to log out and log back in. Log out. Oh, I'm going to write her a message. Can you log out and back in? please. Okay, so how are you guys getting on? Loving the retreat, helping with the present situation. I'm finding it is as well. So, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop this broadcast completely, and then we can restart. Hopefully all your comments and everything's going to be here. So give us 3 seconds. Jean. Jean, can you log back out and back in? And Jean is a very good yoga teacher who has turned off her phone. So she is not able to hear that she has to log back out and back in and change the sound settings. I will send a message on here so that we can see if she can work out the sound. Can you log out and back in? You may need change your sound settings. Okay, so hopefully that will work, because she'll see that she can just log out and log back, maybe. Hold a bit of paper up to the message. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Thank you. Jean, can you log out? Just shut the tab. Oh, hang on. Oh dear. Yay! Okay, so that might work. And then she'll hopefully log back in. So sorry, everybody. And thank you very much again for your patience. Hopefully Jean will be back and we will find out. Yeah, so thank you for your comments and your endless patience here while we see if we can get Jean back. Yes, yes, brilliant. Yay!
I told you I was very inexperienced at this, so.
No, it's, and you know what? Your sound is crystal clear.
Great, good. Okay, I'll bin these. I'll chuck them in the bin. Sorry, everyone.
No, well, thank you everybody for your patience. And we've had so many lovely comments here, Jean. People who are really loving the retreat and finding your classes really helpful. And they would rather wait and get it right. And this is really, really nice. And it's nice that Jenny said the retreat's helping with the present situation. I think that, you know, there's a lot of people right now who really are struggling, not just with technology,
Yes.
but, you know, it is really hard. And there are some real learning curves coming out of it. So I think it would be lovely just to, well, should we just jump into a little meditation to work out how we can all be here now, because now we are here.
Yes, that's a great idea. So the other, one of the most important things I feel to help us become very present and connect to ourselves in this very moment is tuning into the sensation of the breath. So most of my work always tends to be absolutely 100% breath centered. I think it's the most immediate way of connecting to self, and moving out of the head space, which particularly in this time can be full of what ifs and unknown possibilities, and the kind of that can perpetuate a kind of anxiety and fear. So coming very present in the body, but particularly in the feel of the breath, I think is a wonderful way that helps to calm the nervous system. So if we start, if you're all right to perhaps come onto your feet, and we don't need much space. I've just got a little space here, my home bedroom yoga studio, and maybe have a mat or not. Again, you don't need anything actually, just a little bit of space. And what we'll actually do is just start off by simply standing, planting your feet onto the yoga mat or onto the ground. And let me just make sure that you can see me. And as you plant your feet down into the ground, feel the simultaneous gentle rise of the crown in the opposite direction. And we'll take a few moments to slowly and gently breathe in through the nose. So we could do this all together, inhaling all together through the nose, and then exhaling through the mouth, and seeing how long that out breath can be. And then we'll take that again. So we slowly breathe in through the nose. And as you breathe in, you can feel the energy rising, moving from the feet to the crown, and then exhaling through the mouth, letting the energy pour back down into the earth. And we'll take that a few more times. So as we breathe in, sense energy rising up through the body. And then as you breathe out, this feeling of energy flowing back down to earth. So we become very connected. One last time. Inhaling through the nose. Take a moment to feel the lungs open, and then exhale through the mouth. Slowly emptying the lungs. And then allow the breath now to return to its journey in and out of the nose. Very easeful inhalation. And then an easeful exhalation. Nothing forced. The wonderful thing is that we don't have to teach the breath anything. The breath knows how to breathe. And so our job is just to listen and tune in to how the breath is. And then relaxing the body as we breathe out, so the breath can become a little more full and a little more easeful. Seeing if you can allow, each time you breathe out, the breath to come to its complete and natural end. And then letting the breath return of its own accord. It gently flows in, just of its own accord. And then it flows out again. Just take a few more moments, sensing perhaps a little spaciousness as you breathe in. And then a sense of yielding into the earth as you breathe out. Spaciousness as you breathe in. And softness as you breathe out. And as you feel this soft flow of your breath, allow the eyes to open if they weren't already. And take your weight into one leg. Doesn't matter which leg it is. Just let your weight land in one leg. And then the other leg that is free, gently let the leg and the foot come forwards. And we're lowering the heel. And we go heel, ball, toe. And arrive in that leg, exhaling fully. And then as you inhale, the back knee gently floats forwards. And then we lower the heel, exhaling heel, ball, toe. and arrive all your weight in that leg. And then we go again. Back knee floats forwards as you breathe in. As you breathe out, plant the heel, plant the ball, plant the toes. Arrive fully in that leg. Back leg floats forwards as you breathe in. And we go heel, ball, toe. Maybe one more step forwards. Inhaling, the knee comes forwards. And we plant as we breathe out, heel, ball, toe. Now we're going to actually reverse it, which is quite interesting. So when you're ready to, inhale first. And then as you reverse, we go toe, ball, heel. And then we go again. Inhaling, the leg floats, and the foot feeds back. We go toe, ball, heel. And we continue on, just going at your own pace with it. Slowly planting your weight through the foot as you breathe out. Letting the other leg gently float through as you breathe in. And then planting toe, ball, heel. Inhaling, the leg lifts and moves through. Exhaling, toe, ball, heel. So all the time moving to the flow of your breath until you return back to your starting position. In your own time, there's no rush. And then once you're at the starting position, you just gently bring the hands onto the belly and breathe into the belly. Let the hands receive the belly as you inhale. And then as you breathe out, let the earth receive your body's weight. Exhaling, feet flow downwards and crown flows upwards. And you breathe in, the belly gently expands into the hands. And then as you breathe out, let the legs and the feet flow downwards as the crown gently flows upwards. Just take this a few more moments. Inhaling into the belly, belly opens into the hands. Exhaling, feel the legs flowing down into the earth and the crown rising up to the sky. Just 2 more breaths here. Allowing the out breath come to its complete and natural end. Every time you breathe out, let that be a completion. It clears the space for the in-breath to flow into. And when you're ready to relax the arms, and then we can come back to sit and see how that feels in the body and in the breath. Maybe a little bit different in the mind too. Kat, I can't hear you again.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can now. Yes, I can now.
Yeah, I find that coming into the body is the most helpful thing that we can do when our minds are challenged. That's really nice. And I think that doing a walking meditation is such a beautiful way of doing it. Challenging to go backwards, by the way.
Very challenging, which is quite good because, sometimes we go, oh, it's so easy going forwards. Mm-hmm. So it brings a whole different awareness and perception into our walking. Also kind of just feeling a little bit more in the back body rather than front body. The other lovely thing about a walking meditation is if you can get your shoes off and walk barefoot and do it in the garden, or even in the park. What I've really enjoyed in my local park, there's a couple and they do a walking meditation and they do some Tai Chi barefoot, and it's so lovely to watch. It kind of, it creates a real atmosphere in the park.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, we've got Heidi, who also loved the going backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. What's very interesting, I think, about going backwards in the back body. So in terms of the nervous system, and if we remember how how we breathe has such an effect on the nervous system. It instantaneously affects the whole nervous system. So breath is how we communicate with the nervous system ultimately. So if we're breathing in a very tight, and you can often just practice it whenever, if you breathe very quickly and short and shallow, you can feel the effect immediately on the nervous system and the mind, and the kind of, sometimes we start to get tight and tense. And then when we do the reverse, when we consciously slow the breath down and take time for the out breath to come to its complete and natural end, immediately the nervous system will respond. So breath speaks to the nervous system, and the sensory nervous system that flows out through the back body of the vertebra. So our senses, the sensory nervous system, the somatic nervous system, flows out through the back body of the vertebra, whereas the motor neuron, the doing nervous system, flows out through the front body of the vertebra. So there's a very different way of being when we sense into the back body. For example, when we walk backwards and we're really having to open awareness and perception into the back, to how it is when we're in the front body. So that's another thing that we might play with when we finish off with the meditation at the end. Just the ways that we perceive, all through sensing parts of the body that are alive and responsive.
And completely changes the way we feel about things. So that's a really useful tool to put in our toolbox when we're sort of trying to be here, trying to work out ways to deal with any anxiety, fears, things that are coming up during lockdown, crazy times, and a time of loss for many people. So that's a really interesting way that we might be able to deal with the challenges.
Yeah, and I think definitely, I think as well. So when we allow the energy also to drop down into the feet and feeling the support of the ground beneath us, that's another way that we might begin to feel some kind of support, because particularly for those of us who are maybe dealing with loss, or in whatever way, whether it's a loss of a loved one or loss of your role as a loss of a job, or whatever it is, loss is constant in our lives, and it can affect us in a way that we feel very unsupported and well, like the rug's been pulled out from underneath our feet, like groundless. And coming into the sensation of whatever is in touch with the earth, with the floor, whether it be the feet, or if you're lying on your back, the skull, is a really wonderful way of feeling supported and held. And I think that's something that we all probably could do a little bit more with at the moment, is feeling that we are supported and held, particularly when people are so far away from us. So feeling that physical contact of ground and its nourishment that it offers us can be a huge source of support for us.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. The whole thing about how to get grounded is such an integral thing in yoga, but it can be quite a funny sort of concept, because it's not something which normal people will sort of talk about in everyday life, that concept of grounding and how helpful it can be.
Yeah, there is also can sometimes be a misconception in the practice of yoga and meditation, that it's all about feeling really good and up and high and like cool, free, and yeah, great, and that's a wonderful aspect to feel. But for us to be balanced, there needs to be the opposite, which is the grounding and being steady and finding our way to move with ease, not necessarily flighty and with bursts of energy, which are all fine, of course, but to have that sense of steadiness and groundedness, so that we can slowly move forwards and take the pauses when we need to take the pauses, and then sometimes to move backwards as well. So it's not always about pushing and forging ahead. Sometimes just about simply sitting, being grounded, and allowing ourselves to touch into the ground of our experience of where we are right now, and being in a place of acceptance and knowing that it's all okay. Even the stuff that doesn't feel okay or doesn't feel great is actually okay, because it's part and parcel of being.
Yeah, it's just part and parcel of being human and trying to get through this experience. And I feel that this experience is a sort of microcosm of what we feel in everyday life anyway, like with the real highs and lows, and feeling of sometimes we do feel trapped and sometimes we feel free. And it is interesting that this time is kind of brings these things up, right?
Yeah, it's like everything is under the magnifying glass. That's what I feel. Emotions, thoughts, feelings all seem to be much more magnified and intense, and particularly that amazing how, as you were saying, that sort of how we swing from one thing to the other, feeling like actually it's quite liberating, not having to run around and do this and do that and fulfill loads of social agendas, and actually to be then quiet. And then at other times we can feel, or I can feel, really trapped and hemmed in, and then I realize actually our reality isn't so much to do with out there. The reality is more to do with my internal perception of where I am in this moment. So it's a fascinating opportunity to actually to touch in and get more connected to self and get to know ourselves very deeply and very intimately, because we don't have the ability to project so much externally. It's that kind of internal radiation, that return home.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely thing, and the definitely for me, the being grounded and feeling supported by a sense, here's a sense of community, feeling connected, has never been more important to me.
Yeah, and as you say, that the importance of that, and again, it's so interesting that we are so spread out now, but the connection is even more intense. I don't know about you, so I'm more in contact with my sisters and my parents than ever before. Even when I go and see them freely right now, I'm speaking to my mum and dad every day. I'm talking to my sisters. We're Zooming. There is much more connectivity, and I think concern somehow, knowing that we're all ultimately on our own, which we were before anyway.
Yeah, right.
Now it's like, oh,
yeah, really. Yeah, it has amplified that, and that's absolutely right. And it's funny that this time where we're not able to see each other, I do feel a lot more connected, and the fact that right now we're all in our own separate houses, but at the same time, I think it's quite strong. It's quite powerful that right now we're all doing this together. We're all going through this, as Emma says, this process of self-inquiry. It's very powerful. It makes it a lot more powerful, I think, being there with a community, knowing that others are supporting us.
And I think the other aspect to that is that we're all experiencing the same thing. So in some ways, I know it's not necessarily always a leveler at times like this, because it can also highlight those that have more and those that have less. But ultimately, we are all experiencing the same restrictions, which tend to bring up, many commonalities in our emotions and our feelings. So in a way that's connecting us, because we're all feeling those same things. Makes us then, or makes me also realize completely we are all the same. We're all, there is actually ultimately no separation. We're all made of the same stuff. We all feel the same things.
And that's so lovely to know, because in our culture, I think often there's a lot of emphasis on the things that make somebody special or somebody different, or one person more powerful or rich, or people, there's a sense that some people might be better than others because of, what they say or what they look like. And it's so nice, actually. It's so heartening to know that in a very yogic, in a very real way, we are all the same. And the trappings don't matter.
Yeah, and we're all right now. We're all subject to exactly the same thing. So, yeah. Yeah, and what has been quite interesting for me as well, it's shone a light on areas that that I thought I'd kind of grown beyond, and so again, it's these things are often so hugely humbling. It exposes us to our core, and being able to sit also with that very that vulnerability of kind of, what now? How do we move forwards? And that there is no master plan. We're all going step by step globally. I mean, globally, that's the incredible thing, is that we're all globally going one step. Oh, is that okay? Can I come out of my home? Yes, it's all right. Let's take another step. And then if it's not, then we have to kind of step back. And on a global level, it's amazing that that's all that we can do, is just one step at a time, and one breath at a time, and see where each one leads us to.
Yeah, that's kind of beautiful, isn't it? That we're all of us doing small steps, which is pretty cool. Now, I've got a really interesting question from Carol. And Carol is doing the retreat with her sister, which, although they can't be together, makes us feel more close. So that's lovely. I love that a family has come together over the retreat. Now, in the morning's practice, there are a lot of arm movements and lots of pressure on the wrists. I have an injury to my right arm whereby I can't lift it above my shoulder level. Are there any alternative moves that Carol can make, Jean?
I think that might be a bit of a rotator cuff issue. So what I would suggest is rather than the whole arm moving, because that's quite heavy and weightful, I would first of all start off with the shoulder articulation, shoulder rolls forwards and backwards this way. And you can go one at a time and then both together. And then if you're feeling, right, okay, I can go a little more, I would move through to the arm, but keeping the hand on the shoulder and just moving the elbow forwards, only to the point that you feel not any discomfort, because obviously if you're feeling discomfort, there's a reason, and it's your body's way of saying not yet. So often keeping the arm close to the center of gravity, which is your body, and then just taking the arm forward is probably going to be the simplest, forwards, and then gently backwards, and seeing how that goes, not taking the full circular motion, just going to the place where you feel, I can breathe, I'm not going into a place of discomfort, and then come back down again. So exploring that range of motion with the hand on the shoulder.
Thanks, Jean. Carol, let us know if that helps, and if you have other questions from that.
Shoulders, particularly for women, unfortunately, tend to come over under quite a lot of pounding. So their shoulder injuries are super common for us women, unfortunately. So taking time to rest as well in between classes, and trying not to kind of always be lifting heavy things, and overextending our weight bearing.
Okay, now that sounds very sensible, and it's lovely to hear other people's comments on our conversation. Going back to that sense of community is so important, Susanna. Kathy, I've noticed more occasions when I stop before I react, as I say, by being more present within myself. That's really cool. That's so cool, Kathy, that actually within this short amount of time, just doing an online little retreat, that's something very fundamental, and hopefully we'll take that.
It's so important to actually know there's again, it's so much like the breath. The amazing thing about the breath is that it kind of has all our life lessons in there, and if we observe the flow of the breath, we think, oh, it's just an inhale and outhale, but actually at the top of the in breath there's a pause, there's a moment of nothingness where we're full. And then the same at the bottom of the out breath, there's a moment of emptiness and there's nothingness. And in those pauses, kind of like you were saying, before reacting, we have a moment to go, now, where do I go? Oh, yes, the in breath's going to come back. So it's like a moment of clarity. And then we get the chance to notice there's a spaciousness and that we're free to actually move or react or say in a way that we would like to, rather than a knee-jerk reaction. So that's fantastic that in that short period of time you're sensing and feeling that.
I think that's absolutely amazing. I'd love to do a short breathwork practice with you in a short while, Jean. Now, yes. But we have another technical question. Vera, who I think everybody knows is my mum. Yeah, if we're allowed to ask Jean technical issues, can I ask her why I find balance so very, very difficult? I am determined and try hard, but I don't succeed very well. So how can my mum improve her balance?
Well, you know what? It might be because you're trying too hard.
Oh.
Basically, relaxing. I think balance really is about how we connect to the ground and find stability there. So if we're kind of trying too hard, often that's creating quite a lot of muscular tension and even a slight degree of anxiety or judgmentalness. I'm not doing it right. And so that kind of becomes this perpetual a cycle of noticing I'm not doing it right, damn, and we get irritated. So I think perhaps one of the most immediate ways that we can help improve our balance is by pressing into the earth, really grounding, moving your weight and your energy downwards on the out breath, and kind of feeling that you're stacking everything over the foundation. So if you're standing on one leg, you want to get your pelvis and your head directly over that foundational base, so that it's like building blocks, right? And then once you've got the building blocks in place, you go, oh, I'm going to root like a tree. And as you root then like a tree, the energy will rise up. But perhaps try less, which is very difficult to do because we're never told to try less. But actually, balance is quite a natural thing. We can naturally balance if we begin to just relax a little bit, try less, and stack the bones, stack everything over your foundational base, and then see how you go on. I'd like to know, right, how you get on with that, Vera.
Yeah, having Vera trying less, I think, will be a challenge in and of itself, because my mum is a very good achiever. She likes to achieve a yoga pose, so that's going to be good yoga. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Carol,
experience.
Yeah, right. Carol, thank you, Jean, for the good tip. I've tried it. It feels okay. I will adapt into my practices. So thanks, Carol. I'm glad that has helped. Jada, the retreat has really deepened my yoga practice. I've been practicing for a few years, but it's the first time I do a retreat. And I feel I've learned as much from it as I would if I had attended in person. It's amazing. That's really so lovely to hear.
And the other thing is, we all have this amazing knowledge and wisdom within us. You know, I know it's great. We look to teachers to help us and give us, you know, tips, and that's all wonderful. But what is also miraculous and amazing is that we have an enormous amount of wisdom and knowing internally. And if we gently redirect that in and begin to trust ourselves, we'll find that you know, we know loads, and we can actually begin to find the answers and what's right for us just by that listening and trusting ourselves. So never underestimate your own knowledge, I think.
I love it. I've just written that down, that we've got an enormous amount of wisdom naturally. Just learn to listen and trust ourselves. Isn't that,
you know, because at the end of the day, we grew ourselves. You know, this is what I always find really amazing. It makes me go, oh, we grew ourselves. And nobody, you know, nobody taught us how to, yes, okay, we were held by our mums and our dads and such like, but actually we grew ourselves. We grew into this being. We learned how to breathe. No one's taught us how to breathe. We learned how to eat and digest. So we have all this amazing resource within us. And just appreciating the miracle that we are can give us such a huge amount of confidence and belief in our inherent wisdom and knowing.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful. So yeah, we've got people who have never done a retreat in person before and feel that this one is the same. Yeah, it's lovely, and I'm really glad. I do encourage you guys to, you know, join in our next home yoga retreat, which is going to be another goodie, and then do book yourselves on a retreat, because it's something that I do once a year, if not more. And actually going on retreat is really important. It's a really important part of inquiry. Find a teacher who you resonate with. And go for the process and the learning. Don't you think, Jean, that people make really, really big shifts when they're on retreat?
Yeah, I think there's something about stepping outside the routine of our daily life, being in a different space for which
Can't be right
really
now.
Right now, but moving into a different space often gives us a different kind of perspective. And I think as well, just committing yourself to that retreat, that period of time. In this period of time, I'm going to do this, and I think that's often why there can be such huge progress, because it's almost like you're committing to yourself. And the growth in that can be huge.
It's interesting. So it's the commitment, it's the intention. So actually, because the comments like, if we ever get let out, you're right, Emma, it feels like it's never going to happen ever. But actually, I mean, gosh, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Maybe we won't be able to go on another yoga retreat. Who knows? But if we can't, then having that as our commitment, having that intention to journey inwards for 10 days or whatever, to make that pause for breath, to have teachers teaching you on a daily basis, wherever that may be, I think is so important. It's a really important part for me of my journey.
Yeah. And I think even now, you know, okay, yes, of course, we are here, we're in lockdown, we can't physically move out, so we have to physically move in. And I think, you know, just retreating into the breath, this beautiful stream of energy that is always moving through us, all nurturing and nourishing us. And if we take the time to actually retreat into self, it can be so refreshing. It is like a little mini retreat for ourselves on a daily basis, the breath awareness. So yeah, I appreciate, I mean, we all appreciate the fact that, you know, that outward movement is restricted, but then so we move inwards and we source the amazing nourishment of breath.
And thanks, Kate, for your comments. The daily talks alongside the yoga have been amazing. Learned something, be able to try it out in real life and on the mat. And I love that you're getting the wisdom and the humanness of the teachers, because you're right, in a video, it's so hard to understand just how funny you are, Jean, and how wise you are as a person. But you know, in a video, you don't get that. But as a teacher, as a real human, this is what makes you a real yogi and somebody who lives your life as yoga. It's not just sort of about the hamstrings and the rotator cuffs.
Well, actually, I have to say, Kate, that I have to thank a lot with getting a little bit more comfortable being in front of the camera, because when I first started doing classes for Movement for Modern Life, I was so nervous. It was like I probably, you know, I daren't look back at those early ones, because I think I probably looked like a scared rabbit. Like, so it's actually, Kat, to you, a big thank you that you've made me a little more relaxed in front of the camera.
Well, it's been a learning for us all, Jean. It's been a process, hasn't it? But I think the interesting thing is that there are so many people, so many teachers, especially in this day, who are so confident in front of the cameras and come across so well, but they just don't have as much to share. And it's so lovely when people are able to really hear the wisdom of somebody who has been on a whole lifetime's yoga journey. That's a lot. It's a lot to share. And often those people are the ones who are more hesitant and are less likely to come forward. So anyway, that's just my little thank you and gratitude. Yeah, so this is interesting. Lovely little quote from Sandy. When we practice mindfulness together with others in community, we generate a powerful collective energy that can bring healing and transformation to ourselves and the world. And I think that's so beautiful. It's about the collective, lifting each other up. And that's definitely my aim for Movement for Modern Life and these retreats. But and I think that we are all here for each other, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and it's almost tangible as well. I find sometimes when I'm giving a class online or a talk online, and it's such a strange thing, because you know it's only through technology, but there is a real sense of communication and connection, even through this very kind of spacious ether. So we're really lucky. Part of me does wonder, you know, if this had happened, say, 20 years ago, I think it would have been would have been a real struggle for many of us.
It would have been definitely a real struggle. And I love that there's lots of folks who are now commenting on retreats and the power of retreating. I like Kate, and the food. Yeah, I think that's when you can get to a retreat, that is absolutely it. Yeah, Heidi is yaying for the retreats, and Hannah, I love retreats. Hannah was on the last Movement for Modern Life retreat, which was just brilliant. Mum says the importance of the retreat is the philosophy of yoga, and I think that's it. It's the going deeper, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think something like this as well, when there's a thread every day, there's something that you can come into, you can tap into, and it's a kind of growing day by day, a building on one theme and on another theme. So although, you know, it's wonderful when we do go somewhere amazing and we're all together doing retreats and eating amazing food, actually having this ability to live stream and build on what perhaps was explored yesterday, and then you go on today, and then tomorrow. There's this lovely kind of continuity and journey that takes us deeper and deeper into our learning and our understanding. So that's a really important aspect of retreat, whether it be online or in person, you know, key.
Yeah, I absolutely think so, and thank you, Raki. Don't tell Kat, but I really love putting retreats together. I'm glad because there's way more. And yeah, Kate, it's lovely to all be in this together. Now, Jean, we did talk about the breath and how the breath gets us grounded and can get us more in the present moment. What do you think about doing a little breath-led practice now?
Meditation?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. So what I was thinking of offering is it's actually one of the first meditations that I learn, and it's something that I return to again and again. It's actually the base ground of all my meditation practices, and it's called shamatha, which means calm abiding. And the idea is that it helps us to relax and be present with whatever is, rather than trying to fight it and resist it or change it and manipulate it to how we want it to be. To cultivate a spaciousness, to calmly abide and be with whatever is.
That sounds like a perfect practice. I want to dive in.
Great. Great. So what we could do is take a moment to get comfortable. I'm going to move back a little bit. So either sitting cross-legged, or sometimes it can be really comfortable to sit on your heels. So however is best comfortable for you. Another aspect I think is quite important in meditation is to make sure that as you sit, the back is upright. So rather than this kind of falling back on ourselves. So maybe prop yourself up on pillows or even sit on a chair in order for this spine to find its verticality. And then it's much less stressful on the musculature. All right. So we'll just take a few moments to get ourselves comfortable. Okay. And then when you're ready to, we're going to take a little lift of the shoulders, breathing in. And then roll the shoulders gently back and down as you breathe out. And then again, inhaling. So connecting to the breath. And then exhaling, easing the shoulders. And then just one more time, breathing in. And then breathing out. And then we'll take a few moments to gently bring the eyes to close. So there's this internal focusing. And as you bring awareness in, the first step of this practice, and there are kind of 4 steps which are really helpful to know at the beginning, because we'll go through each one and then we return to number 1 again and we go through each one. So the first step is to simply notice how you're sitting and create a soft, open poise where you can feel the spine long, the pelvis rooted, and the crown gently floating upwards. So getting comfortable in your seated position. And then the next step is to bring attention and awareness to the breath. So it's like bringing your mind home to the breath. Simply noticing yourself inhaling. A natural pause at the top of the in-breath. And notice yourself exhaling. Natural pause at the bottom of the out-breath. And then the in-breath flows back in of its own accord. Pauses when it's completed. And then flows out again. Breath flows out until you're empty. There's another little pause, a little space. And then the breath flows back in again. We allow the mind to follow the journey of the breath. Noticing the sensation of the breath, how it feels to breathe in. And how it feels to breathe out. And as the mind becomes connected to the breath, we allow it to gently unclasp any thoughts that arise either in the background or in the foreground, because this is kind of the nature of the mind, that it will think. So as you notice the thoughts arising, rather than getting caught up in the thoughts and going, oh yeah, that's a really good idea, I'm going to do that. Or the reverse might be to kind of push it away and go, no, I'm not thinking. We simply ungrasp and let the thoughts come, and ultimately they'll go. So we're not pinning them down by indulging them or repressing them. Just go, here comes a thought. There it is. There it goes. And as we ungrasp hanging on to the thinking, you might begin to experience a spaciousness of mind. Mind gently unfolds and opens into a sky-like nature, Buddha nature, sky-like nature of mind that is open and vast and infinite, never ending. And then when all the thoughts start coming in like clouds in a sky, we go, I've noticed that. And then we return, check in with my poise. How is that? Go back to the beginning. Spine upright, shoulders relaxed, belly soft. And then we bring awareness to the breath. The mind comes home to the breath. And we follow the journey of the breath in and the journey of the breath out. As we follow the breath in our mind's eye, you might notice that the mind starts to ungrasp, begins to let go of the thoughts, to expose this open vastness of mind that is infinite and free, boundless and open. Breathe with that openness. And then when the thoughts come back in, we can return again back to the first stage. Notice the body, the poise of the body. And then the sensation of the breath flowing in and flowing out. Mind gently ungrasping the thoughts to softly open into its sky-like nature. Boundless, infinite. Let's remain here for another couple of minutes so that you can guide yourself even when you feel the mind is getting a little crowded with the thinking. Go back to the first stage, feeling the poise of the body. Second stage is feeling the flow of your breath. Third step is to ungrasp the thinking. And then the fourth step is to feel this openness, this inherent openness and vastness of mind. You feel the breath gets a little tense, consciously breathe out either through the mouth or through the nose. So there's a yielding and a letting go. And then gently return awareness to poise, breath, ungrasping mind, and openness, sky-like nature of mind. ready to, still perhaps with the eyes closed, if you're okay with that, you could just lift the hands and take a little rub of the hands, still eyes closed, just gently warming the palms, just a little rubbing of the hands to warm the palms up. And then we'll take these warm palms to rest over the eyes, over the closed eyelids, relaxing with the breath. You feel this warm darkness gently enveloping the eyes and soaking right through back into the optic nerves, deep in the brain. So the brain softens and the nervous system relaxes. And then still with the hands over the eyes, allow the eyes to gently open behind the hands. So the light and the images come through the cracks of the hands and the fingers. And then we'll gently float the hands forwards, allowing the space to open up between the eyes and the palms. And then gently, as you lower the hands, bring them to a prayer-like position in Namaste. And we can bow the chin. And take a couple more breaths here to close the practice completely. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
June.
hope that helps. It's a really lovely practice. You can take it for as long as you like. That was just a kind of a short one, but the longer you can sit, the better it gets, and the more spacious you'll begin to sense through your mind. So it's a nice, very, very simple meditation practice that you can do at any time, and I find it enormously helpful.
Oh, I loved it. I feel really very peaceful now. It was lovely. So maybe with no further ado, we should close it there, because that really does feel grounded and present.
Right.
And Jean, thank you so much for sharing. It was really, really beautiful. And it's lovely to chat to you here and get to know you on the Movers group as well, because, you've got so much to share. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and sorry about the technicalities at the beginning. It's all a learning experience.
I think it's always heartening, because I don't think there's a single person here who hasn't had a technical issue since this lockdown stuff. This is just how it is.
Yeah. Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take good care.
Bye, everyone.
Have a lovely Tuesday evening.
Yeah, bye.
Bye now.